Hello, I'm Pete Bellotta. Whether it's building a piece of fine furniture or something more practical like a bunk bed, the process always begins by selecting quality lumber. Unfortunately, sorting through stacks of material in an effort to find the right boards can be both time-consuming and frustrating. That's where the planer can help. A planer is used to trim boards to a desired thickness while simultaneously smoothing the board surface. Stationary planers are large machines designed for surfacing stock 15 inches or wider, while benchtop models are portable units intended for surfacing narrower boards. Besides milling lumber to your exact specifications, a planer can reduce your lumber costs significantly. That's because it allows you to buy rough lumber rather than the more expensive dressed or surface lumber, which usually needs to be resurfaced anyway. In this program, you'll learn why the planer has become a fixture in the workshops of professionals and hobbyists alike. A planer is a complex machine consisting of the following major components: the bed, cutter head, chip breaker, feed rollers, and motor. The bed is the platform on which the material is placed. On portable units, this is typically a piece of flat steel. In contrast, most stationary machines use a bed that includes a pair of steel rollers to help reduce friction. Directly above the bed are the cutter head, chip breaker, and feed rollers. The cutter head is a steel cylinder that houses the blades, or knives. Generally, portable planers are equipped with 2, while stationary machines have at least 3. In front of the cutter head is the chip breaker, which deflects the waste away from moving parts and directs it toward the dust collection port. To automatically move the material through the machine and keep it tight to the bed, a feed roller is positioned to the front and rear of the cutter head. On some machines, a pressure bar is used to help the rollers in keeping the workpiece flat on the bed. Depending on the planer, the in-feed and out-feed rollers will either be made of steel or solid rubber. Most portable planers use rubber rollers to keep both the weight and the cost of the machine down. On models with steel rollers, the in-feed roller is serrated to provide grip, while the out-feed roller is smooth to avoid marring the surface of a freshly planed board. To power these components, portable machines are equipped with a universal motor which relies on brushes to transmit current internally. In contrast, stationary planers use the quieter and more durable induction motor, which is a brushless design built for heavy-duty use. Regardless of the source, power is transmitted to the cutter head using a belt and pulley system. One of the features found on stationary planers is a row of anti-kickback pawls. The pawls prevent the material from being thrust back towards you in the event the feed rollers lose their grip on the workpiece. The anti-kickback pawls are located in front of the in-feed roller. Planers are equipped with clearly marked power switches. Benchtop models typically use a paddle switch for the on-off function, while stationary machines usually have large push buttons marked start and stop. The advertised size of most planers is based on the machine's maximum cutting width, which means that a 12-inch machine can surface boards as wide as 12 inches. Be aware, however, that the advertised size of some planers is rounded off to the nearest whole number. Consequently, the machine's actual cutting width capacity will be slightly less. Cutting depth is adjusted by turning a hand wheel on top of the unit to raise or lower the head assembly. Most machines have a maximum cutting depth of 1/8 inch. To eliminate snipe, a common condition when planing, many newer machines are equipped with a cutter head lock. Whenever the workpiece is not in contact with both rollers, it tends to lift off the bed, causing the carriage assembly to shift. As a result, the knives make a depression in the wood known as snipe. A cutter head lock reduces this tendency by eliminating free play between the carriage assembly and threaded support columns. Some planers provide 2 feed rates, indicated in feet per minute. Since the slower feed rate results in more cuts per inch, or CPI, it produces the smoother finish. When surfacing a board that requires multiple passes to achieve the desired thickness, always make the final pass with the machine set to the slower setting. For boards wider than 8 inches, especially hardwoods, slow speed should be used exclusively since this reduces the stress on the motor. While a planer will smooth rough boards, it is not designed to straighten boards that are warped. That task is reserved for the joiner. Consequently, you want to make sure the board is perfectly flat before running it through the planer. Also, don't forget that a clean pair of safety glasses and hearing protection are essential when operating either machine. To plane a board, begin by measuring the workpiece at its highest point and then adjust the height of the cutting head to that dimension. This zeroes the cutting head to the stock. To determine the amount of material that must be removed, simply subtract the desired finish thickness from your initial measurement. For example, if you're planing a piece of 5/4, which is typically 1 1/8 thick, and the desired finish thickness is 7/8, then you'll need to remove 1/4 inch of material. In order to produce a smooth surface on both sides of the board, divide the total cut in half and remove that amount of material from each side. To avoid damaging the workpiece and/or the machine, never remove more than 1/8 inch of material in a single pass. For exact specifications on maximum cutting depths and board widths, check your operator's manual. Some machines, like this one, have a gauge that indicates the cutting depth. Now, turn the machine on and wait for the motor to reach maximum speed. While standing to the side of the machine, place the material flat on the table with the grain facing forward. Next, slide the board along the bed until it's picked up by the infeed roller and drawn into the machine. Retrieve the board from the opposite side and then flip the material and repeat the process. When planing a long workpiece, add extra support on both ends. This will reduce the tendency for snipe by ensuring the board remains flat against the bed throughout the entire cut. To avoid dulling the knives in one area, don't feed narrow boards through the same path continuously. Instead, alternate the placement of the boards so that the knives wear evenly. To ensure the ends of the workpiece are free from snipes, plane a longer board than needed and then cross-cut each end to achieve the finished length. One more thing, never attempt to plane a board shorter than the minimum distance listed in the operator's manual, since the board won't span the distance between the infeed and outfeed rollers. Although you may never need the capacity of a stationary or benchtop planer, you can still enjoy the convenience of power planing with a handheld machine. A power planer consists of a front and rear base separated by a 2-blade cutting head. The rear base is stationary, while the adjustable front base determines the depth of cut. The cutting head is powered by a small universal motor and belt drive system. Most power planers have a cutting width of 3 1/4 inches along with a maximum planing depth of 1/8 inch. And while you can't surface wide boards with this tool, it will perform other jobs the big machines can't, such as rabbiting and chamfering. Before using the tool, adjust the cutting depth to the desired setting. This is accomplished by aligning the appropriate depth mark on the knob with the pointer on the housing. With the material properly secured, place the front base flat against the surface. Be sure the cutter head is a safe distance away from the edge of the workpiece. Depress the trigger and allow the motor to reach maximum speed. Now, move the tool forward slowly while maintaining moderate downward pressure on the front base. As you approach the end of the board, reduce the pressure on the front base and apply pressure to the rear. For the smoothest finish, make multiple passes at a shallow depth and advance the tool slowly. For greater control when planing, install a guide fence. To make a rabbit cut, align the edge of the blade with the cut line and then set the guide fence accordingly. Adjust the front base for the maximum allowable cutting depth and then make a pass. Continue to make passes until the desired depth has been achieved. Maximum rabbiting depth on this model is 11/32 of an inch, which is the point at which the housing interferes with the material. To make a beveled edge, align the V-groove in the front base with the edge of the board and follow the planing procedure described earlier. Like any hard-working machine, planers require periodic maintenance to keep them operating efficiently and extend their service life. One of the simplest yet most important forms of maintenance is regular cleaning. Warning: before performing any maintenance or adjustment procedures, always make sure the machine is unplugged. Because a planer removes large amounts of wood, Chips, shavings, and sawdust eventually find their way into concealed areas of the machine, such as the gear case. With the cover removed, clean the chain and gears using compressed air or a shop vac and brush, and then remove any debris on the planer bed. Next, wipe down the support columns thoroughly with a clean, dry cloth. If you regularly plane wood containing resins, like pine, dab the cloth with mineral spirits to remove pitch and gum deposits. With the critical areas clean, apply a thin coat of penetrating oil to the support columns. Be sure to wipe off any excess. Next, lubricate the gears with white lithium grease or other appropriate lubricant. Check your operator's manual for the recommended type. Finally, apply paste wax to the planer bed. This will not only protect the surface, but will reduce workpiece friction as well. To check the flatness of the bed, place a known good straight edge diagonally across the bed and then check for gaps using a feeler gauge. If any gaps exceed 0.010 of an inch, the bed should be repaired by a reliable machine shop. To inspect the knives, begin by removing the cutter head shield. Next, remove the locking bar retaining bolts with the supplied wrench. Now, attach a pair of magnets to the locking bar and remove the assembly. The magnets typically come with the machine and are specifically designed for this purpose. Warning: planer knives are extremely sharp and should always be handled using the supplied magnets. Inspect the knives for nicks, gouges, or other damage and have them sharpened or replace them as needed. When reinstalling the knife and locking bar, be sure to tighten each of the bolts securely. It's also a good idea to check the bolts periodically for any looseness. Now, let's review the key points of the program. A planer is used to trim boards to a desired thickness while simultaneously smoothing the board surface. Stationary planers are large machines designed for surfacing stock 15 inches or wider, while benchtop models are portable units intended for surfacing narrower boards. The cutter head is a steel cylinder that houses the blades, or knives. Generally, portable planers are equipped with 2, while stationary machines have at least 3. The advertised size of most planers is based on the machine's maximum cutting width, which means that a 12-inch machine can surface boards as wide as 12 inches. Be aware, however, that the advertised size of some planers is rounded off to the nearest whole number. Consequently, the machine's actual cutting width capacity will be slightly less. A power planer consists of a front and rear base separated by a 2-blade cutting head. The rear base is stationary, while the adjustable front base determines the depth of cut. Warning: before performing any maintenance or adjustment procedures, always make sure the machine is unplugged.